Hello everybody. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time discussing Paul Thomas Anderson's masterpiece, There Will Be Blood. And this is something I've tried to do a video about before, but it's something I think I've never been able to get quite right. And I've just watched this sort of analysis of There Will Be Blood by this guy on YouTube, I can't remember their name, but he describes the character of Daniel Plainview as being a sociopath. And I think I don't really agree with that assessment quite so much. I think that the character of Daniel Plainview is probably one of the most complex characters in film, and I think that he's sort of multi-dimensional and so layered that to describe him as being merely a sociopath might be a little bit erroneous and might be a bit of an oversimplification of that character, since I think I grant you that Daniel Plainview does exhibit sociopathic tendencies. However, I think that very much he's a character that's been driven to that by the circumstances around him, and I think more than anything he exhibits this central dualism between who he really is, who is this sort of lonely, greedy figure, and this person who really wants to be the sort of person they're pretending to be. This family man, businessman type person who has a very strong moral and ethical centre and really wants to bring wealth and prosperity to impoverished parts of the United States via drilling for oil there, and yet he is corseted by the realities that he encounters on his journey through various parts of the United States drilling for oil. He's corseted by the greeds and demands of other people, notably the character Eli in the film, who is eventually shown up for who he really is as well, who is just a charlatan, a scoundrel basically, and Daniel obviously ends up killing him. This contains spoilers, by the way, so killing him in a bowling alley. The bowling alley obviously represents the basement downstairs, hell if you like, and Eli's gone down to hell, all confident, to sort of communicate with the devil and try to bargain with the devil, i.e. Daniel, who by this point has fully succumbed to madness and has become the devil, if you like, or has come to symbolically represent the the demonic and the evil, the satanic sort of figure within the film, the bad guy, if you know what I mean. Whereas everything in the film, that so far as Daniel's concerned, sort of hints that he's desperately trying to escape that. He's trying to escape that sort of bad guy image. He wants his own image as an oil man to be a good image. He wants to be an upright and decent person as a businessman and as a prospector. I don't think he wants to be this sort of evil, scumbag, exploitative type person. And likewise with Eli, who is his sort of mirror opposite in the film. I think that earlier on in the film there's a deep sincerity within Eli to sort of bring, if he can't bring, financial prosperity to Little Boston, that's just the locale of the film, he can at least bring, spiritual solace and satisfaction to his congregation, even though he is basically the local scoundrel and a little charlatan, and there's various clues within the film that sort of lead to this conclusion, whereby he doesn't come and visit Daniel and HW when HW loses his hearing when the derrick, the oil pumping station blows up, and this sort of thing. So I think very much it's a film of deeply contrasting and contrasted personalities, which turn out in the end to be more similar than you would initially have suspected. And I think that's possibly the reason that Daniel kills Eli, is because Daniel ultimately sees within Eli, perhaps something akin to himself. Within Eli, he sees a similar sort of ambition. He sees a sort of a similar sort of person in a more of a nascent phase, more of a younger phase than him. Also, he sees Eli starting down on a road that leads to becoming a sort of Daniel figure, if he really is, you know, working in radio, and if he really is gaining success as a sort of lay minister, you know. And it's all about the downfall of the dream of American capitalism, isn't it? This film, this is central to the film, is you know, the ideal of American capitalism, you know, wealth for everybody, wealth for the many, not for the few, prosperity, you know, to be shared around equally. That's obviously something that ends up not happening. Or you get this idea from Milton Friedman, you know, trickle-down economics, and that's very much something that ends up not happening within the film. And you see wealth concentrated in like this pyramid, Pareto principle distribution, with the likes of Daniel getting the biggest share, the likes of Eli and his family, and Bandy getting nothing, or getting, you know, quail prices for their land and so on. And yeah, so it's a very, very interesting movie, and Daniel is a very, very interesting character, I think, because yeah, he is wrestling with these conflicting ambitions of wanting to be a family man, him seeing it sort of all ending in family for him, or family in a more of a genuine sense than merely with HW, who is his adopted son, and of course it ends up not being like that, and he ends up lonely and going mad in a mansion, and having to eventually deal with the pitiful likes of Eli Sunday, who comes around asking for such a small amount of money compared to what the land is worth beneath Little Blossoms, compared to what the oil is really worth. And Daniel probably makes a deal with Union Oil for about, I'd say probably about $1 million, and Eli comes scratching around later on for a mere $12,000 or $10,000, is it? Something like that. Which in modern money equates to about 100 grand, whereas $1 million back then would equate to about 30 or 40 million dollars. So Daniel gets the huge payoff, the rather handsome sum of money, the fortune, if you like, at the end of it. And Eli then comes scratching around for this pittance that Daniel ends up sort of relenting, and well, not relenting, and doesn't give to him, and kills him. I think maybe because he's offended that he asks for such a small amount of money. But it seems very much like a Judas sum of money, you know? Judas being paid off with his 30 bits of silver, which is enough to buy an acre of land, i.e. a field, for him to kill himself in. And yeah, it seems maybe symbolically something like that is going on there. And of course, when tempted, Eli gives in to temptation and sort of breaks down and declares himself a false prophet, and that God is a superstition, which is a rather a bittersweet ending to it, because Eli is a foul little character. He really is like, starts out being so self-righteous and up himself, and so, you know, like self-consciously righteous, and you sort of see it, the mask slip at various points throughout the film, and eventually the whole thing just unravels at the end, and Daniel sort of ends up sort of seeming like almost more like the righteous man in a bizarre sense, and just kills Eli in the basement eventually. I don't know, maybe just because he can't stand him, or because he's been an enemy of his for so many years at that point. It just, the switch sort of flicks. I don't know. But yeah, a fantastic piece of cinema, in my opinion. Everyone should watch it. It's a magnificent movie. Soundtrack is great. The cinematography is second to none. You get these beautiful, expansive shots of the desert, and it's a beautiful, remarkable film. And I think that's been my analysis of it, because I want to keep this sort of brief. So, thank you very much for watching, everybody. Bye bye, and I love you lots.